Hi friends, today we're going to be talking about story elements. We're going to talk about the characters, setting, problem, and solution. And the story that we're going to use today is Not Quite Narwhal by Jessie Seema. Not Quite Narwhal. Kelp was born deep in the ocean. He knew early on that he was different from the other narwhals. His tusk wasn't as long as everyone else's. He had different tastes in food, and he wasn't a very good swimmer. But his friends didn't seem to mind. So Kelp decided he wouldn't either. That is, until he was swept away by a strong current. I wish I were a better swimmer. Kelp found himself at the surface, closer to the land than he had ever been before. High up on a cliff, he spotted a mysterious, sparkling creature. It looked so familiar. It looked like kelp. Kelp swam toward the land as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that he would catch up with the creature that looked just like him. When he finally reached the shore, Kelp felt a little bit anxious. He had never left the ocean. He was nervous about walking for the first time, but the land creatures made it look so easy. It wasn't. Oof. Ow. Eventually, he got the hang of it. Everything on land was strange and beautiful, but also kind of scary. Kelp began to think he might never find the creature that looked just like him. But as he stumbled out of the forest, land narwhals! Actually, we're unicorns. And by the looks of it, so are you. Kelp had never heard of unicorns before. They taught him all sorts of new things about his tusk. We call them horns. Wow. They introduced him to unicorn delicacies. And they showed him how to gallop. There was no doubt that Kelp was, in fact, a unicorn. He was having so much fun that he didn't want to leave. But then he remembered all of his friends under the sea. Kelp missed them terribly. So he said goodbye to the unicorns and returned to the ocean. Come back soon. Kelp swam toward home as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that the narwhals would still like him now that he was a unicorn. When he finally arrived, Kelp had butterflies in his stomach. Welcome home, Kelp! Kelp took a deep breath and told his friends the news. It turns out I'm not a narwhal. Of course you aren't. I'm a unicorn. We all knew that. They took it quite well. Kelp was so happy to be home, but now that he had experienced life on land with the unicorns, he couldn't seem to forget them. Did he want to be a land narwhal with the unicorns? Or a sea unicorn with the narwhals? Kelp couldn't decide. But then he realized that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to choose. I'm a unicorn. The end. So now we're going to talk about the different story elements that we saw in the story. Let's talk about the characters first. Who were the characters in our book? The first one that we saw, the main character, was Kelp. The other characters that we saw were the narwhals and the unicorns. Remember, the setting is where the story takes place. So in the book, Kelp was in the ocean, in the forest, and on the beach. The problem is what went wrong in the story and what happened to Kelp. So let's think back. The problem was that Kelp didn't know where he belonged. He thought he was going to have to choose between being a land narwhal or a underwater unicorn. And the solution is how we solve the problem, or how Kelp solved the problem. And he didn't have to choose. He decided that the unicorns and the narwhals could come together and become friends. Great job today, guys.